Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Movie Night here on the Anorex Entertainment Podcast. I am your host, Samee Ramirez, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Dom Martino. Dom, how you doing?
Hey, Sammy, I'll tell you, it's a
today?
beautiful day over here in Indiana. It's been sunny out, and I'm just really enjoying that. So, ready to talk about Cruella. I can tell you that much. I do have a lot of thoughts on the movie, just in general. So, yeah, should be a lot of fun. So, definitely excited.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm so excited to talk about this movie as well. So again, we are doing a full spoiler review of Cruella, the new Disney live action remake. I am calling it a remake. I went back and forth with calling it a remake. I'm going with it.
I called it an adaptation. I called it a live action adaptation on my non-spoiler, so yeah.
I think adaptation's a better way to put it. Live action, Disney live action adaptation. Directed by Craig Gillespie, starring Emma Stone and Emma Thompson. We're just gonna dive head first. So Cruella, right? I want to start there.
Okay. All right.
I want to start with the character of Cruella de Vil.
All right.
So, first off, full spoiler. I'm just diving full head in. The thing about this movie is that it, in a way, retcons a little bit parts of 101 Dalmatians that I guess, because a sequel has been announced, and Cruella 2, I guess, is happening, to which I said, so you mean they're just going to remake 101 Dalmatians and call it Cruella 2?
Pretty much.
Pretty much is what's going to happen. And I mean, while I don't necessarily have a problem with that, because it does exist in its own little world, it is quite odd to me, this new take on Cruella. So the thing is, what I'm really talking about is, so Cruella de Vil in 101 Dalmatians, literally she's a camp villain, to me at least. That's how I read her. Her name is Cruella de Vil, for the love of God. She's just this camp villain who loves fashion more than anything. If you try to pin it down, I would say it's that she's, I guess, a fashion designer, and she just, in the name of fashion and her own vanity, is what she puts above everything else. Her fashion, and remember this, her fashion and her own vanity above everything else. And so when she sees like these Dalmatian dogs, she's just like, oh, they would make a beautiful coat. I want them as a coat. And she doesn't think about literally anything else. And it's us as the audience, and for Anita and Roger of the original film, to like dissect the fact that that's a bad thing and that she's the villain, you know what I mean? And to fight that from happening. And so that's what, going into this movie, that's what I was under. That's what I kind of wanted from this movie. I wanted to make sure that we all operate under that fundamental understanding of who Cruella de Vil is, and that's why we love her. That's why she's such an incredible villain. That's why when she walks around Disneyland, she just sasses people all the time, and people love it. Like, and the reason why this movie is being made. Right. So all of that being said, I know it sounds like I'm gonna say that I hate it, but I actually think that there was a very strong attempt to do so. I see where I feel like they did understand that on a certain level.
Interesting. Okay.
It's the fact that I feel like they wanted, to me, because the other thing is, there's a huge thing on the dogs in this movie. There's dogs all over this movie.
Yes.
Which, again, like I said, it's not about the dogs. It's about her fashion and her vanity that she wants to kill them. It doesn't have to do with dogs. Nothing about it in the original has to do with dogs.
Okay.
But this movie, I feel like, is so heavy-handed on like seeing, like, you see the evil Dalmatians and then you see them being nice, and then she has a dog, Horace and Jasper have a dog, and they're both nice. So she says multiple times that she would not make a coat out of dogs. She's like, no, I would never. So the thing is that it to accept this movie, I kind of have to retcon what I know about the original. So that is, I guess, a good adaptation. Basically, I'm kind of struggling here because fundamentally, I feel like there was a strong attempt to be true to the Cruella de Vil. However, I don't think it was that well done. Like, it wasn't that well written. I feel like there was probably a strong meeting about this where they all had a very good agreement, and then they all went off and did their own separate things, and it kind of got lost in it. Okay. All of that to say, that's a very long-winded thing to say. but because I am very famously, I hate most of the Disney live action remakes. I for very very strong reasons. But I mean, I was very entertained with Cruella. That's like the long-winded way to say is like
Okay.
all of that to say, I was still entertained. It was an original story based on those principles that I said. I just think not that well done. But still, I was still like, I see you. It's because compared to, like The Lion King, Mulan, Aladdin, Dumbo, where it's like there's nothing new here. I'm watching the same thing. I can just
Yeah.
watch the original. I do appreciate that this is a new story where I can't get this the same information from watching 101 Dalmatians. I do like that. I just think it was badly written. I mean, it's a very long-winded. Like, I mean, to put it in a nutshell, like I think it was poorly written. I think the characters were a little weak, but the acting I think was incredible. I think they really sold it, and I didn't hate it. It was very entertaining.
Okay.
That's my overall review. What do you got to say?
All right. So I'm just gonna
Your
run
overall
over.
thoughts, I guess.
Yeah, I'll run over kind of a couple of the points that I was making in my non-spoiler review, and then I'll get
Mhm.
into like I guess how I feel about it. It's along the way here, but okay. So some of my opinions on the live action adaptations. Like I liked
Mhm.
Aladdin, I like Mulan, I like there's
Right.
been those that I liked, and then there's those that but even like the ones I like have never been fantastic. So like after I saw this trailer, I
Mhm.
was like, this is the one I'm kind of looking to break the mold for me because, it just looked hot. It looked fresh. It looked like something new. I was like, I think I can get on board with where it's going, but we'll see. But again, I never have faith in it because I know that for myself, most of these live action adaptations either come off stale or they're just most of the time
Mhm.
very bad. I mean, or poorly done. And I don't have much faith in myself enjoying them. And another point that I made, just as far as the premise goes and the way that they went about Cruella in this movie, there's like they did do a lot of like they took a lot of liberties, definitely for sure, in their approach. Here obviously that's
Mhm.
it's their own take, so it's kind of like I mean I just understand that like some people are gonna be on board. There's a lot of other people that really aren't going to like it because it really does go
Right.
against the grain in some ways, and it's very own take. It's not trying to be 101 Dalmatians. It's trying
Mhm.
to be its own original thing. And so I understood that a lot of people just weren't going to be on board with it. I myself thought this movie was fantastic. I was happy I did too because I like I said, I've been wanting one of these things to break the mold. This is the first one that I feel like
Mhm.
I actually loved. You know what I mean? Like a lot. Like I hold it pretty
Wow.
highly. And to give it a grade, I said that this is worth a matinee. That's how I described it on my review. It's definitely worth the matinee for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that Emma Stone did do her homework, despite the fact that maybe the story didn't do everything in the vein of what we
Right.
know Cruella de Vil to be itself. Emma Stone definitely did the homework. I think everybody's going to walk out of this saying, whether they like the take or not, Emma Stone did a good job because she definitely
Mhm.
did give herself, to the screen. I mean, because she, first of all, her and Emma Thompson hold a lot of the movie together because they complement
Mhm.
each other so incredibly well. A lot of people are saying that Emma Thompson is the like better performer here. I'm actually gonna go different on that. I
No
love Emma
way.
Thompson. I think Emma Stone had the stretch as far as performance.
Yeah.
Emma Stone had the biggest stretch here. Then
I kind of can't believe there'd be people who would watch this movie and be like, "Oh no, Emma Thompson was the better one." And
yeah,
I
it,
say that
it
like
was Emma
I'm
Stone.
obsessed with Emma Thompson. Like she's one of my like
Yeah.
heroes. I love her, but like Not in this movie.
Emma Stone is the reason that this works in a lot of ways, because
Yes.
she really did dedicate herself to it. There was a lot of the movement, a lot of the, you know, the voice and everything else. And you know, I the other take that I've heard from a few people is that I disagree with, and I'll explain why. Is that this movie didn't need to be a Cruella film, and I disagree with that, and I'll tell you exactly why I disagree with it. Number one, it clearly set up that they're going to go into the 101 Dalmatians storyline here. I mean, clearly it set
Right.
that up. Number two, you know, the second reason it has to be a Cruella movie is a reason that I disagree with one of your points, Sammy, which is the writing. I think the writing works because it is
Uh-huh.
Cruella. That's my opinion of it. Because if it wasn't trying to take place, if it wasn't trying to be Cruella, I feel like this writing wouldn't have worked at all. Because I was kind of watching it and I kind of had the same problem with it. Because I was like, this script really isn't the best. But then I put myself in the role of Cruella DeVille, though, and I was like, but it kind of works in a Cruella type of way, in my opinion, anyway, as far as the dialogue goes. You know, like in my opinion, I was like, it does work in a Cruella type of way, though, because and if she was
Right.
playing any other character, then this performance doesn't work, I feel like, and the script doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work the way it does. And I
Right.
loved a lot of the writing here, and I'll tell you another thing too, is this movie's funny in a very dark way. This movie's quite funny, and I that was another
That's
thing I
so
really
funny.
enjoyed. And I mean, Paul
I was in a
Walter,
small theater. I was in a small theater, not a lot of people. There's probably like 10, 15 people
yeah,
in there, and like it got some laughs. Like there
yeah,
was a couple of times where like the entire
yeah.
theater laughed.
Paul Walter Hauser was an incredible comic relief. I mean, he played Horace, right?
Yeah.
Jasper and Horace. He played
Yes.
Horace
Yeah.
incredibly well. I liked his
I
timing. You need a
yeah.
good comic relief, you get Paul Walter
He
Hauser.
was
It's just
the thing is like he was yes, he was fine because I think all of the actors I think did a really good job. But it's just he was just kind of forgettable for me. And
really
it wasn't him, it was the writing. It was
interesting.
he was so kind of just in the background for me.
I disagree. I thought he was just one of the best parts of the movie. I mean, Emma Stone is the best part, but like
Yeah.
he's one of the better parts of it
Yeah.
because every time
Can
he
we talk about
speaks,
who
it's
is the best part of this movie though, which is the other one, Jasper? I That was so unexpected for me. I did not think that like those characters were going to be I wish like because Jasper's character got a
Joel
lot of
Fry.
expanding
Yeah,
on Joel Fry. Yeah, he got a big expansion on his
he did.
character
He did.
versus Horace is just still kind of like the bumbling buffoon, which is his character. But I'm like, but I would can I not get more with him
Exactly.
too? Because I love my favorite parts of this movie were like the Jasper and
Yeah.
Cruella scenes.
Yeah.
That was
It was great.
freaking incredible.
Yeah,
The
I agree.
writing direction, everything I said that I hated about it works with those
Mm.
characters, I think, especially when they're together, I
I agree
think.
with you. I agree with you. I
Yeah.
think that the yeah, I wasn't expecting that take on the character either, but they
Yeah.
definitely like
It's hard
they
because I
added a
like
new layer. Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's hard because I like the characters, yet I don't think the writing is good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I contribute a lot of that to the actors, I think, because a lot of their dialogue I don't think is good, but like the way they do things, the way they move, the way
Yeah.
they talk to each other is what I think really is why I loved it so
Well,
much.
I think the
Why I
other thing
loved
to point
those
out too
characters.
about the dialogue is a lot of it is, and I'm not trying to claim that this is some of the best written dialogue I've ever heard, because it's not.
Mhm.
I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Like there were lines that struck me and kind of threw me off. I kind of agree with you on that. But every time I would kind of take myself back and say I'm watching a Cruella movie
Hmm.
for that's
Right.
kind of made for teens and above. I'm kind of
Right.
like, this works on that level. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because it is that
Sure.
movie,
Right.
it works on that level. And if I didn't expect to see anything Shakespearean anyway from this. So
Hmm.
it's like, okay, I'm good with the writing here. It's fine. It gets the points across. One of my least favorite things though, writing wise, and I complained about this in my non-spoiler review, which by the way, I loved Mark Strong in this movie as well. I like what he ended up the role he ended up
I
playing was
kind of
cool.
laughed when he showed up. I was like, because I did not remember his name, and I was like, it's the guy. Like, you know what I
Uh
mean? Everybody has the guy that they
yeah.
don't know their name, but they see them all the time, and
Yeah.
it's like the guy. Like
Yeah.
Mark Strong for me is like, oh, it's that guy.
Yeah, I was kind of
It
at
kind of made me
this
laugh. I'm not
I
gonna
was
lie.
yeah, I was at a point with him where it was when he first came on, I was like, crap, they're just gonna like waste Mark Strong in this movie, aren't they? Because
Right.
he kept going on with nothing to do, and then he ended up becoming a very significant part in the journey of Cruella
Hmm.
here. And I was like, okay,
True.
thank God they used Mark Strong really well. But then he does that exposition scene. I don't know who
Hmm.
wrote that expositional scene for him, but it was bad. That one part was
Yeah.
bad. That was it was like, it didn't feel fleshed out. It just felt like he just was saying the things that happened, and that was it. Like, it
Right.
was just like, it was so surface level. That was bad writing. I'll give you that part, because that was really
Hmm.
bad. The rest of it, I think, is fine. Like, I wasn't like sitting there trying to nitpick it. Like, I
Yeah.
again, like, I think that, the fact that I was really just swelled in this, because it's a gorgeous looking movie too. It's another thing I want to point out. The way that Gillespie like
Yeah.
captured like 1970s punk rock London is really great. Like, I felt like I was there, and that was another great
Hmm.
thing about it. And something else I want to point out as well is the soundtrack was amazing. And maybe I'm biased because it was like all songs and artists that I would listen to on a daily
Right.
basis
I
anyway,
feel like
but
I keep
I
feeling
loved it.
like I keep feeling that that keeps coming up. Like there's a lot of people who love the soundtrack and love that whole aesthetic. And then there's some people who I think find it a little distracting because I'm kind of in the middle
Mm,
where like sometimes the music I thought could be a little distracting. There was a lot of great times where it was just like melded in perfectly, but also it kind of mixes in with like the editing of this movie. There are some
yeah.
editing choices that I'm like, yes, that's a cool shot, but like, what does it mean? It means nothing other than we had the option to film this in a cool way, so we did.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and a lot of the times it's mixed in with heavy music moments, like we had the option to make this cool scene, so we threw in a cool song with it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, and,
I found all this, and like even like the campyish dialogue and things like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I found it all to be written in a way, and like the way they added the music to, this movie was going to be dark, like it was. I like that they kind of stuck with the darker tone throughout it for the most part, even though they had moments of levity. But I feel like the
Right.
reason that the writing was the way it was and the music was the way it was is to also kind of add this balance of fun to it, you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
that way we are just thoroughly entertained, and I
Right.
feel like it's a lot of what kept the pacing up too, and things like that, because this is a pretty lengthy movie, and I even said it was maybe just a
This movie was way too
few
long.
minutes over long for sure. But like, I said that in my non-spoiler review. I think you could have cut some stuff from the very beginning when she was a young girl. There was some stuff that could have been cut out of that for sure, I feel
Yeah.
like. But you take that away, by the time you're in the third act, I feel like we're pretty much wrapped up into it, and we're just like, I want to see what happens, and I'm not gonna walk out of this just because it's over long. I mean, I'm entertained, and it's here. And yeah, but the performance, there were so many naysayers about Emma Stone going into this, and I that was the biggest takeaway for me, is how proud of her I felt walking out of it, because she basically, there's been Emma Stone hate since she won her Oscar. I've never understood it
Mm-hmm.
myself, but it's just a fact, and I think that this is going to deplete a lot of that hate from people, I hope, because even if people walk out of this and don't like it, they will probably recognize that she's clearly not the problem with this movie. She is
Right.
dedicated and wonderful, and I want to see more of her as Cruella, and she's a hot Cruella too. I want to throw that out there, by the
Well,
way.
obviously,
That
she
was,
always was. My
whew.
God.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that was wow. She was stunning at some parts of this, but yeah, she did the homework. She dedicated herself to the role, and I walked out feeling proud. I feel like this was a good path for Emma Stone to go
Mm-hmm.
into, and a good career choice, and something that she can do time and time again. And be honest with you, I've never felt this way watching a Disney live action thing, but this one, second and ended, I was like, that needs a sequel. Like, that was the first time I felt like
Wow.
one of these warranted a sequel for me. I was like,
Nice.
because I do want to see her evolve into more of the Cruella that we know, you know what I mean, a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more, and to see it from her perspective, I think would actually be cool, because of the way that
Yeah.
they've set this up. And I expect that they're actually even going to do that differently, and that could make this movie even better, just to see where they're going, and that's another thing, kind of like well, I won't spoil it for you, because I do want you to watch the show eventually. But Bates Motel, they kind of go into the Psycho thing,
Right.
but because of the way that they twisted it, and made it their own, that was what made it work. Instead of just
Right.
remaking it, they twisted it and made it their own. And when you
Right.
saw where they were going, that's the reason that the show works. I feel like
Mhm.
it could be the same thing here, considering that we've already seen them take some liberties with this. And I think that when you see yeah, I think it could be very cool. Like I want to see that kind of darker 101 Dalmatians,
Mhm.
and from the perspective of the Cruella,
Yeah.
which this movie, at the very least, I feel like the goal was to make us sympathize with Cruella, which we do by the end of it,
Mhm.
and that
It's just,
they did a
again,
good
it's
job on that.
hard to then, I mean, I don't want to say it's definitely not impossible, because I mean, like, I think of the Broadway musical Wicked, one of my favorite things on this planet,
Yeah.
does this very successfully, but it is very hard to make someone who is the villain, who has good reasons for doing a bad thing, into now your protagonist, because then it's just inevitable that at some point they're going to have to lose, and you then have to grapple with that fact, because it's just so much easier, to
Well,
keep
yeah.
your protagonist and have them win. But if it's a classic antagonist, then at some point that switch is going to happen. That's why, like, the ending, you stayed for the end credit scene, right? Or did you
I know
watch
about
it?
it. I know about it.
That it threw
Yeah.
me like the f off. Like, I was so thrown off by it. Because, so if you don't know, so I was gonna say, so the end credit scene
Yeah.
is, so throughout the movie, which I had an audible gasp when Roger was revealed to be Roger. I audibly gasped. I was like, the guy tripped, who his entrance was, he tripped into the room.
Mm-hmm.
This is Roger, but it does make sense. Um, that I had
I
an
thought that was
audible
cool.
gasp.
I'm
But
not gonna
throughout the
lie to you.
movie, you have, I did. It was all right. I mean, I liked it until the very very ending here.
Mm.
But so you have Anita and Roger throughout the movie, who they don't meet at all. But they're like kind of helpers to Cruella, or they're like members of Cruella's story. And then at the very end, she wronged Roger, and then Anita helped her. So as like a gift for them, Cruella sends them Pongo and Perdita, the main dogs from 101 Dalmatians,
Mm.
to them, and it says like, meet Perdita, love Cruella, meet Pongo, love Cruella. So I'm like, you're gonna tell me that she gifted the dogs to the people that she is then later going to try to
Yeah.
steal and kill from them? That's what
Yeah.
you're telling me.
I love it.
I hate that.
I
I
think
don't like
I
that.
do. I think it's a cool, different take, and I want to see how they make that work.
I
That's the
mean,
thing. They
it's gonna be a sequel.
Yeah,
So
we
we will
just need to
see.
see how they make it work, I think, at the end of
Mhm.
the day. Because, I mean, yeah, that was another thing I wanted to mention. I didn't get to mention this in my non-spoiler. But, some of my favorite, some of my favorite stories are when our main character is the anti-hero.
Mhm.
And and an anti-hero that's created by a villain,
Right.
because, um, excuse me, I mean, I think about Scarface, with Tony
Mhm.
Montana, and Breaking Bad with Walter White. You know what I mean?
Right.
I want to see that happen. I want to see that progress, and I think that they have a really cool start. This is a really great start to be able to do that. And yeah, it's gonna be a remake of 101 Dalmatians, but it's
Mhm.
not going to be an actual, like, verbatim thing, and it can't
Right.
be.
It's
I
gonna be
don't want it to
Cruella
be.
too.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like Hook to me is a masterpiece, and that takes so many
Mhm.
liberties with Peter Pan. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I don't
But
think this is.
Hook isn't claiming to be a, direct thing from,
I don't
the
think that
Disney
this is,
film,
well. This is made by Disney, but I don't think needs to be direct. I don't see a need for it. It's a new creator. Let him put his
I
take on
think,
it.
though, I mean, right, in theory you're right, and I do agree with you, but but inevitably, by the choice of to make this movie, you
Yeah.
have to then understand that, like, comparisons and continuation things will be assessed. You know what I mean? Like, when they made Wicked, they understood that comparisons to Wizard of Oz were going to be a thing.
Oh, of course, but
Like,
I just don't care. I just don't care. If you have your good take, I
right,
don't care.
yeah,
I don't care if you have a good take.
true.
It's a different take. It's like, um I don't know. Like, I'm not saying this was as good as Hook or anything, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, but I just feel like it just has that potential to be something, and I think it's cool that they're actually going to go through with continuing this, and
Mm-hmm.
it just shows me that the guy had Craig Gillespie probably had a really good pitch for it, because the fact is they clearly had a sequel plan before this thing even came out. I feel like, you know what I mean. I don't think that this
Mm-hmm.
was something that, because they just announced it, you know, which means that this was
Right.
a plan. In my opinion, they knew that they were going to do this, so they he clearly has a really good pitch, a really good take. To me, this is a good start. I really like it. I just think the things that you had problems with as far as the dialogue, I think that was all purposeful to add to the, fun of it, and to the camp of it, I guess, and just be it felt like it was right. It felt like it was a stylistic choice, the dialogue, rather
Mm-hmm.
than just bad writing, except for the expositional scene. That I'll say is bad. That one with Mark Strong, that was terrible. The
Yeah.
rest of it, I felt like was to add to it. I don't think it was just poorly written.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I think what really stuck out of my mind that I really hated this part was when the first time Cruella is in, or Estella, I guess we should be saying at this point,
All right.
is in the Baroness's like office or whatever for the first time. The Baroness comes out,
Hmm.
and everyone's like freaking out. Everyone's like, the Baroness is coming, the Baroness is coming. And I was like, okay, I'm ready for like a little Miranda Priestley moment. People keep comparing this to The Devil Wears Prada. I love The Devil Wears Prada. I'm here for Emma Thompson to come out and have like her bad bitch and Miranda Priestley moment. And she comes out and she goes, this is a review from a critic, an impressive critic, and they say that I am brilliant. Don't you people understand? I'm brilliant. They said I'm brilliant, so I need to be brilliant. Okay, moving on. And I was like, no one thought to think like, what if she could do something brilliant or do something to have a bad bitch moment, instead of her reading off somebody else telling us that she's incredible.
I don't know.
That really bothered me. I was like, that was bad writing. That was a telling me something instead of showing me something. Because there are moments later on where like the Baroness, I don't think is one of the problems I have this movie. Not really Emma Thompson though, because there are like moments where she'll like say a line or she'll say a word or she'll do something, or very purposeful like acting choices that are not things that were written in the script for her to say an inflection on that word. Like it's either a director or an acting choice that was done. And those were the cool things I liked about it. But literally every like her story, I hated that story of her that being her mother. I
You
mean, I
hated
do
that?
understand it. I really didn't like it.
I
I could
thought it
have
was
like
unexpected. I loved it. I liked that it was,
I mean,
I didn't expect it to
yeah.
happen. I thought it was a good
the
twist.
the
Yeah.
thing of it was, and I do guess this is now that I'm really just now thinking about it, that it was to drive this point home. But I had liked the idea that this girl just like had kind of a dual personality thing going on, where she was a Stella and Cruella ever since she was a kid. It was always, don't be it, make sure you're being a Stella today, not Cruella, don't be Cruella
Yeah.
today, like all of that. I love that, and I'd already understood that and lived with that understanding. So for it to be, because like it's all to reinforce that she has, so basically Estella is the part of her adoptive mother, the woman that raised her, and then the Baroness is her Cruella side. You know what I mean? That's what drives that home. But it just then doesn't make sense to me necessarily for her then to choose to be Cruella for the rest of her life, then, because then that's, she's saying, I choose then to be like the woman that murdered my mom. I choose to be this woman that lied and stole and was a
But
narcissist and wanted to kill me as a baby.
but
And that
oh,
also,
go ahead.
sorry, one more thing.
You're fine.
This is also why Jasper is the best character in this movie, because he's the one to call her out and be like, I like Estella, I don't like Cruella. Like Cruella's, she like multiple times he's like, Cruella's a bitch. Like, where's Estella? That's the girl we love. That's our friend.
Yeah.
Multiple times, and he doesn't ever really. I'm sure it'll be explained in the sequel, but to me, there was no more resolution with that. The movie ended, and he still had an issue with the fact that she was choosing to be Cruella, because again, that's not, the whole movie lays it out as that's not who she should become then. And I guess I mean, she is a Disney villain, so it does make sense. But again, that's the problem of making the villain the hero of your movie.
I just disagree with all of that though, because
Go ahead.
to me, not not all of it. Like I see where you're coming from. Don't get me wrong.
Jasper is the best character in this movie, though. We will not be debating that.
I'm not. I mean, I like Cruella the best, but I'm not debating that
Right.
either. But anyway, my point is the reason that I think that it works is because it's the sickness. That's how I took it. It's
Okay.
just it's hereditary. It's a part of it because
Right.
when I look at like I'm gonna use some Bates Motel comparisons here.
Mm-hmm.
Bates Motel is a much better property, don't get me wrong. It's much better
Mm-hmm.
content than this. It's much more
Right.
Shakespearean and much more well written.
Good.
But
Right.
there are similarities here, I feel like, that need to be looked into.
Mm-hmm.
Norman Bates is a great person, you know, and he was set up to be that way. But
Mm-hmm.
he's sick. He can't escape that. It's just who he
Mm-hmm.
is. And he has a moment very similar in Bates Motel to Cruella here, where she's kind of saying that. She's
Right.
saying, I love you. You know what I mean? Same way Norman Bates loved his mother,
Mm-hmm.
but he killed her. You
Right.
know? She didn't kill her mother, but you get what I'm saying? She's becoming like the person that did.
Right.
And so to me, that's just hereditary. That's her sickness. That's the mental illness setting in. Whatever it is
That's
in
fair.
her head mentally that she just can't escape. And that's why I think it works. I'm not saying, and I've already said in the beginning of this just isn't going to work for everybody. For me, I happen to like a story like this. I happen to like it when we end and not everything was sunshine and daisies. There's a lot left there, you know, to be explored, and a lot more darkness to go down, you know. And I think that that's what's going to make a very cool second movie at the end of the day, is the fact that she's not done spiraling out of control. She's put like a pin in it, and she's kind of like on pause right now because she's accomplished something. You know, she made an accomplishment at the end of this movie. And so she feels accomplished. She feels like she could be nice to Jasper and Horace and all that, but it ain't done. There's still something lurking up there in her mind that's going to make her spiral more and more out of control. That's what I really dug about it when we really start to dig into the psychology of the character. And then she didn't have that scene where that amazing scene, by the way, where she's crying with pounds of makeup on. I don't know how she did that. That would burn your eyes, because that was all done in one shot, by the way. Anyway,
oh, really? You have your eyebrows and, you know.
Yeah, sure, but
that stuff you can cry.
You can but
cry with makeup on. As someone who's cried with makeup on, you can cry with a lot of makeup on. You just can't like rub it. Don't be rubbing it anywhere.
Yeah,
but the tears can still fall.
I don't know. I felt like you will survive. Burned, there was like so much eyeliner. I don't know. I just felt like it would have burned. But anyway,
right? No, she had to be honest. She had like full like eye makeup.
Exactly. Like, it was like you could see it. Like right. But anyway.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that moment where she's saying I love you, but this is who I am. To me, it just then I wouldn't have bought it. But because we did have the moment, I was starting to buy it more. And that was the moment I was like, okay, I'm on board with this, because it was just the most raw and realistic feeling scene and well-written scene, I feel like, in the movie. And so, yeah, it allowed me to really start to dig into the psychology of the character. And to me, especially when we found out she was her mother, it's like, okay, that makes more sense, because one of the problems I was having, at least in the beginning, was Emma Thompson's character feels more like Cruella than Estella, and Estella is supposed to be Cruella. And then so when we got there, I was like, that makes a lot more sense, because she is Cruella in a sense, Emma Thompson. Yeah. She's the origin of it. And it just made a lot more sense to me once that twist got laid out. Again, I still didn't like the Mark Strong exposition of the twist, but the twist itself I found to be unexpected, and I was like, oh shit. And I just thought I think there's a lot to dive into there. And yeah, I'm excited to see how they make it work. I think that there's a real opportunity to make it work. And I hope that they do, especially for you, Samee, because I hope that when they do make it work in a second movie, you can go back and look at this one and say, okay, I see how they played that. You know what I mean? And I see why now I appreciate that a lot more, because they work together so well. I hope that's where they go. again, this movie ain't Shakespearean or anything. I'm not trying to claim that. I'm saying for something that was made for teenagers and above, when you dive into the layers in it, it's pretty damn cool. That's all I'm trying to get at here. I just think
Sure, yeah.
especially when you
It's a
put it
fair
up next
assessment.
to the rest of these Disney adaptations, right? I think this one blew
Mm-hmm.
the rest of them out of the water. It was actually, this is the first time for myself, I found one to be fantastic.
I wouldn't say blew them out of the water, but we're better. Like
Yeah.
I did say, like I do think it's better than Maleficent.
Yeah.
Like Cruella is. I haven't seen the second Maleficent, but like as
Yeah.
I was watching it, I was like, "Is it better than Maleficent?" And I was like, "Oh, 100%."
It's better than
It
Maleficent for sure.
definitely is.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Put that in my notes.
no disrespect to Angelina Jolie, but again, this included a performance that was such a
Yeah.
stretch from who Emma Stone actually is as a person, And I get that it's
Mhm.
called acting and everything, but her stretch that she
Right.
made to become Cruella, and when she really got to the peak of it, it just felt very. Yeah, very cool to me.
Mhm.
I really just I bought the performance. It was that damn good.
I'm just trying to think of right because like okay, there are two ways the sequel can go. Right, we can do 101 Dalmatians Cruella, or we can redeem her, right? So it can either end with like her going full Cruella DeVille. She has no remorse. She's just crazy. She does get the puppies. She does actually want to kill them. They are Anita and Rogers, and she just doesn't care anymore. Or she somehow gets redeemed, or maybe that happens and then she gets redeemed, and that's how the movie goes. But
I think the third movie is
I,
her redemption.
Oh, I don't want there to be three.
I do.
Don't even say that.
I do. I want the second movie to have a cliffhanger. I want her by the end of.
There are just so many movies. I do not need Cruella 3. There's so many stories in the world.
I want the second
like...
movie to end with the craziest we've seen Cruella ever, and I want that to be kind of the cliffhanger. She's kind of stuck in her crazy.
I would really enjoy actually if the second one we just go full like Joker. Like she just snaps. She goes crazy. She like at the end of it, like Horace and Jasper leave her. She's on her own, and it's just like she's just a villain, and this is what you get for it. Because the thing is also the message of this movie is a little weird to me. I wrote it down in my notes too that and also when the movie was happening, I had a full like that should have a disclaimer under it. That's not what we should be telling people in this world. That she's like, so there are the 5 stages of grief, and she goes through all of them. She's like, but there should be a 6th one, revenge.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the movie, it's her, she benefits from the fact that she's getting revenge, and I'm like, no, revenge is not the 6th stage of grief. I'm like, can we put a disclaimer here? Because there are so many, I know, young, impressionable people who are just not going to understand that. That's a villain's perspective. So, because that's the thing, you either then reward someone getting revenge, which is not okay. We should not be getting revenge on people. Revenge is not a good thing. Other people will not solve your problems. Only you will solve your problems. That is today's lesson.
Yeah.
But this movie makes it seem like if you can get back at people, then you will be okay, which is not good. That's the villain perspective. So it's weird for me then if she were to get, because that's why I say it's more interesting if we then go like full female Joker in that and just have her go full crazy,
right?
Because then you would at least hopefully we all would understand that revenge is not the 6th stage of grief. That is not an okay thing to do, and if you do that, you will just probably end up alone and sad. Like, that's really mean to say, but
yeah,
that's why you should not seek revenge.
It's a dark film. That's the thing, and that was one of the things
but I would like if they go to that angle. I just would have an issue if they reward that.
That was one thing.
But if they go that dark angle, we're good.
Right. Well, that was one thing I said too in the non-spoiler review, Sammy. And again, I understand why Cruella is a PG-13. It's based on a classic, iconic children's character.
Yeah,
I get that. So don't get me wrong, it's good for business. But I said I wish sometimes Disney would be less stubborn and they can just make their R-rated flick. Because if you're gonna go dark anyway, just go all the way. Like that's the one bother here is like every time I'm like through so many scenes in this movie, I just like, why can't they just ever go all the way? Why does Disney have to be that stubborn that they cannot make an R-rated flick? Why is that a thing of theirs? To where they cannot make an R-rated flick? At least when Disney Disney is on the title itself. You know, they'll never make an R-rated flick, and that's unfortunate to me because, you know, this is a story that could have benefited from it, but on the business end of it, I see it because it's an iconic children's character. It's based on that, so it's like I understand, but you know, you guys were already trying to go dark. Just go all the way, and people will buy it. You know, and that's a lot of the reason that, you know, you were using the Joker comparison. That's why it works, is because it goes all the way. You know, there
were multiple times during this movie where I was like, oh, so she's the Joker.
Yeah.
So she's the Joker. Okay,
it is the Joker version of Cruella, except it just doesn't go all the way. And sometimes I wish Disney could get out of the way of themselves and just make that movie. You know, it didn't have to be this, but I hope one day they just go ahead and go for it and make that movie. You know what I mean? Doesn't have to be this one, but one of their villains.
This could have been the one, though. This really could have been the one.
But
maybe with the Frollo, the Hunchback of Notre Dame villain. Maybe when they do his backstory, they'll just make it R and just go full.
Yeah. But for all intents and purposes, this is, to me, great still. I really don't have a lot of problems with this movie. There's a couple little parts here. Again, it's not the best movie I've ever seen by any means, but I thought it was fantastic, especially when you when you put it up against the other live action adaptations. Again, they just pale in comparison, you know, because they're to me.
It's probably the best since The Jungle Book, honestly. Like, it's the least I've hated myself while watching one since the Jungle Book.
I like it more than Jungle Book. I like that it's more original than Jungle Book. I love Jon Favreau's Jungle Book. I thought it was really good, but you know, it's, to me, it's still another one of, we got to do the same thing. We're going to stay verbatim. It's like, no, try something new. And this movie actually did that, and I respect it so much more just based on that alone. It tried, you know what I mean? It tried to be original, it tried to be something new. And I said already, not a lot of people are going to like that take. It's just a fact. There's a lot of people that are not going to like the take in this movie, and I got that. But for the people that do, this is a real treat, you know. And for the most part, this is getting very well received. I mean, so far, people have really dug it. You know, they've taken to it, and
again, like I said, like I would say, like it was very entertaining. That's what I would say. Like, if you just asked me like my quick review, I'm like, I was entertained the whole time. That's more than I can say for like Dumbo, The Lion King, Mulan, you know. Where I would just like sitting there hating myself, you know, the whole time.
No, I really dug this one. I think if I could name just a couple of my highlight moments here too.
Go ahead.
Then maybe you can give some of yours too if you want. But
I have some problems too. I'm going through my.
You got more problems? Oh man.
A little bit.
Okay.
I have like a couple more.
No, I mean, the rest of the stuff is gravy for me, so I'll just go into the good stuff.
I have some good stuff though too.
Okay, great. So my highlights for me, like, again, I kind of talked about Paul Walter Hauser. So the scene where she basically tells him the twist, she's my mother, and he turns around, he's like, you blew my mind. I thought that was just like unbelievably funny. There's a scene in here that I really loved as well when they were running out of the jewelry shop. It was just so incredibly well shot, and it was one of those things where it really went with the music that was playing. So that was another highlight that I had here. And you know, this is a big one for me. This is like probably one of the biggest and most coolest takes I think that they did in this movie was I explained it the way that I looked at Batman a little bit, where Bruce Wayne is kind of the mask, and then, you know, Batman is who he really is. I felt that way with Estella and Cruella. By the time she was Cruella in this movie, I was like, Estella's kind of her mask, and then, you know, Cruella's who she actually is inside, and she kind of accepted that. So I dug that so much. And at first, I'll be honest, when she kind of came in and came back with her old hair, I was like, what, she just gonna dye it every day? And then she took the wig off.
It's a wig.
And I said, oh, thank God. Okay, that makes more sense. I enjoyed that. And the other thing I wanted to throw out here too was just like imagery. I think is a big part of what made this work for me. There were just so many cool like moments of imagery, like when she's dyeing her hair in that opening scene, and it almost looks like blood coming off of her, and I was like, that's a really good shot. And then the whole the punk rock scene where they're out there, you know, doing the punk rock, and she's kind of out there.
I love that.
That was dope. That was dope.
Where they have like the concert.
Yeah, that was dope.
Kind of thing. Yeah,
that was super.
That was really cool. I like that part a lot.
It was just that to me.
Oh, dude,
like,
I liked how.
I
liked too how sorry, real quick, my main man Jasper comes out playing the guitar, but he's
Yeah,
like all
yeah,
angsty because he like doesn't want to be there.
yeah,
Incredible.
yeah,
Incredible. I
yeah,
loved it.
yeah. And that was going to be the other thing I was going to
And the
say
whole the
too.
Dalmatian code and like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And
that's where we first
just the
see
fact
the
that
Dalmatian coat.
she says she killed my dogs and made it into goats, like that was dark as
Yeah,
hell. And even just the drawings that she had in the place with the dogs
right.
that were like, yeah, that was crazy. But the other
Uh-huh.
thing I'll add to that was the one other thing I was going to add. It's something I'm going to agree with you on about Jasper being such a
Mm-hmm.
damn good character in the movie
Mm-hmm.
because of how conflicted he is this entire time.
Yeah.
I think that just is something very interesting to dive into
Mm-hmm.
and adds a whole new layer and a whole new element to it that I think can go very far in a second film. You know, I think that their
Mm-hmm.
relationship is going to be a lot of what makes the second movie is
I would think so.
how kind of up and down it's going to be. I think it's going to be a very
Right.
roller coaster of emotions for those two characters, and I don't think that they're going to
Yeah.
end the film as friends. I really don't. I think that this movie's going to
I
end very
know. I
poorly
don't
for their
think
relationship.
either. If
Yeah,
they go just full Cruella Deville, they
yeah,
can't.
yeah,
Something huge would have to happen to him where he just like became a shitty person all of a
yeah.
sudden, you know?
Assuming that these people understand narrative and how great what you can do with a good narrative,
Right.
then yeah, pit these two against each other,
Right.
pit them against each other. I think that could be very
Yes.
interesting. Um,
It's just hard because you have to get through 101 Dalmatians first, you
yeah.
know, because Horace and Jasper are a big part of that plan, you know,
Oh yeah,
or
yeah, you
canon
get through
wise, you
that,
know,
but
they could
yeah,
nix to that, but
yeah.
if they wanted to be truthful to the canon.
I really do think they're gonna leave 2 on a cliffhanger, and there's gonna be a 3 though. I genuinely feel that way. I think that
Mm-hmm.
there's gonna be a 3. It just makes sense to me. Like, I'm kind of thinking back to Bates Motel too, where we get the Psycho story. They run through that, but then we get
Mm-hmm.
more after that. You know what I mean too,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is like really the way to go here. You know, Norman
Yeah.
Bates's redemption arc, quote unquote, comes after the Psycho story.
The
Um,
thing is, I mean, it depends on a lot of things, but do you think like the thing is hype would have the second one would have to be
I
incredible
think
for
it
there
will
to be a
be.
third one? Because they can plan all they want for a third one, but if it doesn't make money, it's not going to happen.
Right. No, I agree. No, I think that
Yeah.
if it is, like I said, if they understand great narrative at all, and I think that they do, this shows me that I think that
They've
they
let me
got it.
down before. The Walt Disney Studios have
Yeah.
let me down before,
And we
but I
got to
trusted
remember,
them
it's
to make a great narrative.
this time it's Craig Gillespie, so I think that he's probably got a good take here that he probably wants to go with, and if he runs with it and it's great, then I don't see the problem with doing 3. I think that they can make
Mm-hmm.
it work really well. And he shows me in this movie that he's got the skill to be able to make 3 of these if he wants to, or you know,
Mm-hmm.
however. Well, I don't want like 4. I think trilogies are fine, but you know, I was just about to say
I can
however
do it
long he wants
too.
to, but yeah.
I think because I kind of actually would really be interested in watching the story of a villain, but like have to deal with the consequences of their actions. That's very interesting and satisfying to me, you know, to be like, yeah, we're gonna show the backstory of this villain, but we're not gonna glamorize it. Like she's
Yeah.
an awful person. She does awful things. She treats her friends badly, and she does these
All right.
other things,
All right.
and she ends up alone. She's
No.
not a good person. She's the villain of the story,
Yeah.
and so I like them making like a second one that ends around there.
Yeah.
That's why I'm kind of because I don't think they're I don't know about a third, but mainly because I think if they were to go that direction, you end it at 2. You end it
I
there.
don't know. We'll see. I don't think that this movie glamorized her actions at all. To be honest with you, though, I don't.
It's just the fact that they treat it as like if you are going through grief, you are allowed to seek revenge because it
I didn't
could
take it that
probably
way.
solve some of your problems.
I didn't take
You
it that
know,
way.
glamorizing that fact
No, I didn't take it that
that
way.
it's okay to have revenge. Like if you've been treated badly, you can get revenge on them. That's okay. That doesn't make you a bad person at all. Like
No,
they gave off that vibe
I
to
didn't
me.
take it that way. I took it as that's just the
Which
character
is a
where she's
villain,
at.
yeah, which is a villain mentality. So, you know, it's not all that bad.
Yeah.
But
No, I
yeah.
think that she was treated with the same respect as a Norman Bates or a Walter White or a
Mm-hmm.
Tony Montana, you know, where you take
Mm-hmm.
these characters that go from, you know, kind of one thing in the beginning and then they
Right.
turn to another thing, and you understand the whole time that, you know, they're not heroes you know that they're bad people, you know, and I think that Cruella got that same respect here. But I think that, especially like you're saying, the fact that there is going to be more, you know, I think we're going to see her evolve into even worse. I think
hope
that's where you go with it. I think I don't know how why else you would do a second one if you're not going to evolve her into something even worse. You know, make her the monster that she actually is. You know,
That's what I'm saying.
we're not there yet. You know, there's more story to be told, and that's why when this ended, I was like, we need more, because I know that they just didn't get there, and I know that that's where they wanted to go. You know. And so yeah, it makes sense that they're doing another one. So I'm excited. Anyway, yeah, continue your notes. I'm sorry about that.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, no. Yeah. Let me see what else. So I do also like, there is quite a bit of foreshadowing I noticed throughout with the twist of the Baroness that I kind of thought about later on that I liked, like how when Cruella like takes her that dress that she finds in that shop, and then wears it to her party, and the Baroness says something like, "Oh, of course I love it. It's mine." Like, of course she loves it. It's hers. Of course she loves Estella. She's hers.
Right. That's kind of cool.
I like things like that. Like, that's what I said. Like, there are moments that are good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't hate it completely. I wouldn't even say that I hate it. Like, it was a very entertaining, all right movie.
Yeah.
I'm just like a big fan of, you know, the character and the original material, and I'm quite precious about it. I'm aware of this. I also really did like how like weird Estella was.
Yeah.
Like in that kind of camp villain way that is very Cruella, like you said, like how you like the script is kind of written that way, in your opinion, that it's a good weird. Like I love when she's like has that piece of the banana on her face. She has like trash jumped on her, and they're like, you have banana on her face, and she just like eats it. Yeah. Like, that's incredible. That's so random and weird, and just like a small little detail that really adds a lot to the character.
Yeah.
I did gasp when I found out that was Roger and Anita, because I did not think we were going to be getting any 101 Dalmatians references. I knew that the Dalmatians were going to be in it. I knew that was a thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't think Anita and Roger were
But didn't we know that though? Because
that was cool.
They called him Roger earlier on in the movie. We just didn't. I guess maybe we didn't piece together it was that Roger.
Maybe she calls her Anita like straight away, and I was like, Anita's here, what?
Yeah.
But Roger comes a bit later.
Yeah.
Like I didn't. Maybe they did say it before, but I didn't.
They did, but I don't think any of us pieced it together though. That's the thing. It's like, so they were telling us the whole time. We just didn't think about it. You know, that was our problem. That was our flaw as the audiences. See, that's brilliant though. That's clever. And
I kept thinking they were going to show them meeting. I kept thinking, and I was like, oh, so they're going to show them meeting or whatever. But it's for the sequel when they do actual 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah. I feel like can I say something though too? I feel like, and you might take offense to this, Samee, and I'm sorry if you do, but this is my experience as a child. I feel like of all the like animated Disney movies, 101 Dalmatians was always like a lower one on my list, like in terms of my enjoyment of them. And like I know the story and everything, so don't get me wrong. Like it's still memorable enough that I know the story. I have it on Blu-ray, folks. Calm down. I still like the movie, but you know, I just feel like it was one of the ones that was just kind of lower on my list. I always found Cruella de Vil to be very intriguing, and the one with Glenn Close was really fine too. You know what I mean? I remember liking that as a kid, but
those were my favorite ones. Those are the ones that I grew up on.
I just
for 101 and 102.
That's fine. I just, for me as a kid, of all of them, the 101 Dalmatians was always lower to my list. So the attachment that I have to it personally, just I don't have that. You know, I remember watching it as a kid, but I don't have this like, oh my gosh, they better not screw this up here or do this differently. Because to me, it's like 101 Dalmatians. If you're gonna mess with any of them, that's the one to me, because it's like, yeah, you can do so much with it, in my opinion, and it just, I don't know.
I guess for me, my perspective is this is a very like precious and like kind of pretentious viewpoint, and I do understand that coming from me. However, I do think, like, understanding that, I know I'm being pretentious in saying this, but it's the fact that the Disney live action remakes are made for, like, they're made for a couple reasons. They're made because they make a shit ton of money every single time without fail, because they already own the thing, so they can make them for whatever amount they want. And because they came out, so most of the movies that they're making have come out so long ago that it'll be a new thing in the zeitgeist to reintroduce it to a new group of people. However, the thing is that it's also because there's that group of people who do know it so well and made it so popular and made it so beloved. The remakes are also need to be, at least in a little way, like they capitalize on that base. It's capitalizing on nostalgia is what I'm saying. They know that these movies hold so much nostalgia, and for me it really is the entire Disney brand, like all the Disney movies, all the Disney Channel, Disney Junior, even like all of it, Disney XD, like Pixar animation, like a live action, all of it, the parks, everything is so important and special to me. And they know this. They as a company know that people like me exist. We're hundreds millions strong, and that we will go see anything that capitalizes on our nostalgia because it's so personal to us. So for me, it's like, okay, if you're going to capitalize on my nostalgia, it needs to at least be good, or it needs to at least say something, that is new and interesting to me. It's basically like, if you're going to capitalize off of my life and the things that I love, I need them to be good as well, or I need to feel as if they're quality enough for me. Does that make sense?
It does, but
my perspective. So that's why I sometimes am kind of
just
crushes about these things and
but just
care a lot about the changes.
No, I get your perspective, and I knew you wouldn't like this movie nearly as much as I did. I knew that going in. I figured you wouldn't anyway. I would have been thrilled if you had, but I knew that you wouldn't.
I did like it. I probably give it like a B, honestly.
But
like
you liked
B,
it.
B minus.
That's the thing, and like so like this with this movie in particular, that's a step in the right direction, that tells me, and so at least we're both kind of feeling that way, that this is a step in the right direction regardless. Like we definitely both enjoyed this more than the rest of them, for the most part. So it's like they are stepping in the right direction. It seems to me that they're starting to listen and they're starting to try to do this right, at least a little bit. Of course you're going to have problems with it because, like you said, this is precious to you, and this is something that's, so you are going to have problems with it because they're not quite there, but at least they're, starting to walk in the right path, you know what I mean, with it, and do these things hopefully right from here on out, or try to anyway, try harder to do things right. And that was one of the things I appreciated, is they did try harder, you could tell they did. They're listening, and they know that, we've felt like they've just been lazy with these things throughout the years, and here they are finally listening to us, you know what I mean? They're like, okay, we know we're collecting your money, we know you taking a lot of money from you folks,
right? So that's all I ask, is like, I just want like a good relationship between me and Disney, where I'm like, you can capitalize on me all you want, as long as you are giving me quality content. I'm not going to be mad about it. But when you give me something that's not quality content, I'm going to call you out on it, because like, what the hell, man, you're capitalizing on my nostalgia.
This felt like a really good sample of things to come, I hope, and that's kind of, that's kind of what I like, because like we're starting to head there. We're starting to, it almost, honestly, this is probably the best way to put it. Cruella feels like the beginning of Disney live action adaptations phase 2. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, phase 1 was a miss. You know what I mean? We're gonna start phase 2. We're gonna give you guys some great shit, and it really makes me happy because it gives me hope for Little Mermaid and Peter Pan, and
I was like, what's the next one to come out? Because I know that they're filming. I'm gonna look it up. I know they're filming.
It's gotta be
the
Little Mermaid. It's gotta be
soon.
Little Mermaid. I would think. I would imagine it's gotta be Little Mermaid.
I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Yeah.
Because Little Mermaid is the one that is really gonna make or break me. That's, to me, it's the Little Mermaid. If I hate it, I am going to just like light myself on fire. But if I love it, I will scream from the rooftops that I love it and that they've done it.
I think they might. I think that they really will now. It really does give me
Little
hope.
Mermaid's the next one. We're into Collider. And then Pinocchio. Yeah. Whoa. And Peter and Wendy.
Peter and Wendy. See, that's the other thing too. Like, Little Mermaid and Pinocchio, they are titled what they're gonna be. But
also, like, what the hell is this? Sorry, there's a Prince Charming movie coming, written and directed by Steven Spatsky.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
That might be the one. That sounds right up my alley.
Yeah.
That sounds like they had a meeting of like, how can we get Sam on board? And they were like, Steve, got any ideas? And he was like, Prince Charming movie. And I was like, perfect, I'll be there.
Yeah.
So that's allegedly coming
Cool.
in the next couple of years.
Well, I was just
Anyway,
gonna say,
sorry.
I mean, one of the things that's interesting about the upcoming Peter Pan movie, for example, to me, is it's not called Peter Pan; it's called Peter and Wendy.
Peter and Wendy.
Same way that this wasn't called 101 Dalmatians; it was called Cruella. You know, so to me, it's
I do think though, they real
might
quick
have a different take.
Real quick asterisk. I do think it'll be a different take, but I think it will be more in line with kind of how the novel and the play is, because Peter Pan was originally a play. It was originally a play that was then turned into a novel, and the play was just called Peter and Wendy. The book, I believe, was called Peter Pan, but the original play was. So that says they're harkening back to like OG.
That'd be cool, because I've seen the original play. It's really good. You know? So I've
read.
Really
I've never seen the original play, but I've read the book, and to me, like, my favorite, I love Peter Pan, and the best one is the 2003 live action version. It is just the best one because it's the one that matches, I think, the book the best. I agree. You know,
I agree.
It's just, I mean,
that movie's great.
A plus B.
I agree. I love that movie. Yeah, I really do. It's got a certain charm.
It's one of the best movies of all time. If anybody out here is like, hey, I love Disney, I love these live action things, I want more, and you've never seen 2003's Peter Pan, oh my God, you're welcome. You have to watch it right now.
Made by Universal.
You're welcome.
Not quite sure how they got the rights to do it, but
I know, but it was made by Universal. Well, I think because I don't think Disney owns because the rights of Peter Pan are owned by the Great Ormond Street Hospital for children in London.
Right. That's actually true.
Because J.M. Barrie donated the rights of Peter Pan to them, so they get all the money.
You're right. I knew that. Yeah. You're right.
The Great Ormond Street Hospital.
That's right.
Because that's also where in Hook, that's where Granny Wendy is getting a wing dedicated to her.
Right.
Did a whole like Granny Wendy wing.
Right. That's true.
I'm the gatekeeper. I gatekeep very few things, but Peter Pan is one of them.
Yeah.
Harry Potter's the other one.
Back to this movie, because I know we're pretty short on time. We got to start wrapping up soon. So.
I think that might be everything. I had a real problem with the fact of it's the fact that they were still treating her as the hero, even though all of her decisions and choices were that of a villain. And that was, yes, the point, because it is Cruella de Vil who is indeed the villain, but the movie is still about her and she's the protagonist of it. So I did, like, again, I wrote in the notes, like, the 5 stages of grief plus revenge. That's a big nope. Like, I wish that there had been more fashion in this movie and described more about, why Cruella is so into that, because if she's just going to kill those dogs later, I would like to really understand why.
Yeah.
And how, like, I wrote, why would you pick Cruella when Estella equals mom? I wrote that in my notes, because, like, the whole time she's trying to harken back to that, but again, it's the villain choice to do it.
Sorry.
But it's the whole time. I watched that movie the other day.
Great.
Starfire.
Wonderful.
I love that movie. I did watch it the other day. It was on like ABC Family or something. Freeform? What is it called? But yeah, I think that was really my big problem with it. I do think it's better than Maleficent. I do think there's some really cool shots. I just never saw the point, never understood the why of why we were seeing these shots, except other than they were cool. Emma Stone, I think, was really great. The actors, I think this movie could have been a lot worse if the actors weren't good. And that's a real credit to them, I think. And I think Emma Stone.
Yeah, they carry a lot of it. It's a character study, so they should be carrying it.
Definitely. Yeah. I do also, there were a good amount of Easter eggs as well. 201 Dalmatians, my favorite one that I really liked. But this got a laugh in the theater too, which I was like, okay, everybody else also 101 Dalmatian fans. But when Horace and Jasper are like in the car or something, and they see this woman walk by who's like dressed like her dog, which is a reference to, the opening of the Disney movie, is all the people walking around London looking like literally matching their dogs.
Right.
And they look at each other. I think like Horace says something. He was like, haven't you ever noticed that people look like their dogs?
And he's like,
and then the other one, I think Jasper's like, no.
How about now? He puts his hand over his eye. How about
I know he does, right, for the other dog.
I loved it.
I loved that. That was great. I mean, I will also say that I don't know if I want to end with this because it's a lot, but the way dogs were treated in this movie, I found a real issue with it. I feel like somebody had an idea really early on. Maybe it was Craig Gillespie or somebody that was like, wouldn't it be cool if her mom was killed by Dalmatians and we had this whole thing with Dalmatian dogs because then at the end she can give them to Roger and Anita and blah, blah, blah. And they were like, that's really cool. I love that. Let's do it. But then they realized that if the mean ass Dalmatians are the only dogs in the movie, it's going to send the wrong message about Dalmatians. You're going to make them look like they're mean and make them children afraid of them. So you can't do that. So they were like, okay, we still want to have that idea, but we can't make the Dalmatians look mean. And so the rest of the movie is just them dancing around this idea that we can't make the dogs look mean, but we need the dogs to be mean. We can't have them be evil, but they have to be evil. But also, let's give Cruella and Horace and Jasper a dog so that way we'll even it out. Maybe like it was just really, they couldn't figure out. I don't know what they wanted me to know about dogs. There was so much about dogs, and yet it either meant nothing or it meant that you were tiptoeing around the idea of not wanting them to be mean the whole time, which both I don't like.
I don't know. I actually took this as another thing that they just planted in there to continue in the second movie. I think that there's more to this than we know right now, honestly.
It was much ado about dogs, like
much
this movie. So dogs, there has to be. There has to be, and they have to be in sequel. And she leaves with all 5. Yeah. At the very end, she leaves with the 3 Dalmatians and the other 2.
Yeah. Who knows? Could have been much ado about nothing. Who knows? Who knows?
It could just be Cruella de Vil dogs, who cares? Yeah. Even though it doesn't have anything to do with dogs, it has to do with the fashion and the vanity. It has nothing to do with the dogs. Yeah. But I guess it does now.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, it was all right. That's what I have to say. Like, you have anything else? I mean, we talked, we've said all of our thoughts. I thought it was very entertaining. The acting was great.
Yeah. I don't really have any extra points. I guess just a couple little like emphasis on my points that I've already made. I mean, I think everybody by now probably knows how I feel about this. I thought it was fantastic. I really don't have too many complaints here. I thought it was pretty great all around. No, the one thing I would end with is, if you want better content, let Disney know respectfully, don't go yell at them on the internet. And I think that, if you enjoyed this, and most people have seemed to, tell them that. Make sure they know that, even if you had problems with that, make sure that, they know that this is the way that you want these live action adaptations to go. I'm speaking to everybody out there online who likes to just sit there and type on Twitter all day. Like, seriously, go let Disney know that this is a step in the right direction if you enjoyed it, because that's the only way we're really gonna, get this kind of stuff, is just by respectfully saying that.
And I really have to say, like, if you are a hardcore Disney fan and you think you're gonna hate this movie, I'd still say give it a watch, because I am one of you. We are the same person, and I gave it a shot, and it's not that bad. It's quite entertaining. Yes, there are problems with it, and especially if you're a hardcore Disney fan or love 101 Dalmatians and seen it as many times as I have, like, you're gonna have issues with it, but are you gonna be entertained the whole time? Are you gonna laugh? Are you gonna come out being like, it wasn't that awful? Absolutely you will. I'd still say give it a chance, because I'll say, like, before I saw it, I did not know how I was gonna feel about it, because I go into all of them wanting to like it, but I was like, I just don't know about Cruella, but I give it a chance. If you're on the fence, give it a chance, 100%.
And the other,
if you haven't seen it, you haven't seen it. You can't talk about it.
Exactly. And the other thing that I would say too, this is, I guess this is where I'll wrap my thoughts. Outside of one more time, I do want to mention Emma Stone is unbelievable in this movie. Just wanted to throw that out there. But again, because she really is, she just made me so happy with this performance. I was so thrilled with everything that she did. But anyway, the last thing I'll add here is this. And I know, Samee, this might sound like I'm saying this directly to you, but I'm really not. I'm saying this to like a mass amount of people that I spit
it out.
Okay. Anyway. No, I was just gonna
just lay
say,
it on me. Just lay it on. Just
like,
go.
no, one more time. Like, if you didn't enjoy the take on the movie overall, I do understand it. You know, like, I genuinely do. Like, I get where you're coming from. I get that this is a precious property to you. I just ask everybody to just always go into these things with an open mind. You know what I mean? And if you don't like the take, you don't like the take. That's cool. Just always have an open mind and try to understand that artists are always going to try to come in with an original thing. And sometimes they do that and the studio just bogs it down completely. You know, they retool their idea completely and it's like, oh man, that's not good for artists. So the fact, I just want to kind of like cherish the fact that at least Gillespie got to have his original idea, you know, on the screen. Like, that's just always great to see that in artists. At least Disney didn't like bog down his original idea. He actually was able to put it up there on the screen, and that's cool. That's cool for an artist, the fact that he got to have that in there. Again, I understand if not everybody's on board, but it's cool that an artist got to do it, you know. and that's something that I think people just need to I feel like they don't appreciate enough sometimes, you know, just because they weren't on board with the take. The fact that an artist did get to throw his spin on something, you know, I think that's cool, you know, because a lot of them don't get that opportunity, you know, to do so. But anyway, that's where I'll end this. That's where I'll end my thing. So.
And I'll end mine on Jasper is the only true G. We love and stand forever. Best character in this movie. We'll end on that because we are running out of time. So thank you guys so much for joining us on this spoiler review of Cruella here on Movie Night. I have been Samee Ramirez. He has been Dom Martino. Dom, where can the people find you?
Yeah, on Twitter at Dom_Martino_ and on Instagram Dom_Martino_official, on stereo at Dom Martino, where you guys can send in your messages and I can talk to you that way. That's been a lot of fun. I've been on there quite a bit, or trying to be on there more lately. Samee and I do a show there every Wednesday, so look forward to that. And I host on this channel the Anorax Entertainment podcast, so make sure you guys check that out. And I've been doing a lot of one-off reviews. I even did a little non-spoiler here for Cruella, and I, you know, even though you're watching the spoiler review, I hope you're able to go back and check some of those out too. And yeah, it should be hopefully you guys enjoy what I've been doing there. So anyway, sorry, go ahead, say. I'm getting tongue-tied.
Yeah, I feel you. And you guys can find me on Instagram. I'm at Samee Ramirez 14 and Twitter at Samee Ramirez. And then also, like Dom said, we're doing shows over on Stereo once a week, and I'm over at Samee Ramirez over there. You can follow us on the Anorax Entertainment podcast on Anorax Official everywhere on Twitter and Instagram. And then we also have a merch store, correct?
That is. I don't know why it's not merch up here today.
Stream Elements.
It's usually listed on this, but I'll fix it.
It should be in the description or something. But it is merch.streamelements/Anorax, correct? I believe.
merch.streamelements.com/Anorax.
Yes. But yeah, so yeah, please follow us on all the places, do all the things. And yeah, we will see you guys next week for another episode of Movie Night. Have a great night. Bye.